I just got finished with a longer live stream, but right when I finished, I realized that Elon Musk said that Donald Trump was on the Epstein list, and the reason it's not coming out is because Trump himself is on it. I'm going to read his tweet about it, and we're going to talk about it probably for under 15, 20 minutes max, and then I'm going to get out of here. And if you watch this 10, 15, or 20-minute video later in the day and you want more about the Trump-Elon beef, I did a whole long video about it, but what's the point of doing a long video about that and not covering this, which is Elon saying that Trump's on the Epstein list, because this is like the most major bombshell between the two of them beefing. So that's what it is. I'm gonna wait for a few people to get in, then I am going to read the tweet and react to it. So let's just make sure everything's good, golden, and give me a thumbs up if you're the first one here. I'm just gonna start it. I think it's fine. All right, so Elon Musk tweeted, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." And then he followed it up and he said, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out." So he's saying, Trump, you want to swing your weight with me? Okay, well, I'm going to swing my weight with you. You're in the Epstein files. That's why it's not public. Have a good day, bro. Pretty crazy. And let me just make sure everything's looking good and sounding good. Cool. I made a video when Pam Bondi got in office. I think it was, I don't remember exactly the month, but the name of the video, if you look for it on YouTube or Facebook, it was "Why the Epstein Files Are Never Coming Out." And I did a deep dive before Elon said this about all of the connections Donald Trump has, not just to Jeffrey Epstein, which of course liberal media points out and Republicans say, oh, they're just trying to frame him. He was a good guy. Okay, let's get away from that. Let's get away from false accusations or whatever. Donald Trump has hired almost all of the Epstein people who got Epstein off the hook. For example, Alex Acosta, if you go look up and you say, who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal in Florida? It was a guy named Acosta. Acosta was hired by Donald Trump to run the Secretary of Labor his first term. So you got to ask yourself, right? If Donald Trump is really an outsider that's fighting all the bad guys and QAnon's right or whatever, why would he hire the guy who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal? I pointed that out and I was like, isn't that a guy that shouldn't get rewarded? Like, why would Donald Trump reward him, right? Then you go to after Acosta, who was in Florida as the attorney general to essentially be there for a decade to make sure that nothing got out. Or I'm not saying that's the only role, but who was the attorney general of Florida for almost a decade? It was Pam Bondi. She wasn't there when the sweetheart deal was made, but she was the attorney general after. And, nothing really came out under Pam Bondi. So when Matt Gaetz came out and said he was supposed to be our attorney general, he said, I'm against the anti-Semitism IHRA hate speech laws because they're anti-Christian and they make biblical discussion hate speech, and I'm not for it. I was like, okay, this guy's not going to be the attorney general. And then if you watch the media during that, they started running all these things where it was like Matt Gaetz an anti-Semite, Matt Gaetz supports people who deny this historical event, blah, blah, blah. And then when Matt Gaetz got replaced by Pam Bondi, I was like, okay, that's a wrap. Because then they started saying Pam Bondi's the right choice. And those same media companies were like, Pam Bondi will implement anti-Semitism rules and she will go after college campuses. And I was like, I couldn't help but notice the headlines where it was like, Matt Gaetz is an anti-Semite, Pam Bondi will fight anti-Semitism. So it's like a lot of media organizations really didn't want Matt Gaetz to get there. And then when I listen to Matt Gaetz speak, he's one of the only people who are not compromised on that topic. Why do I say that? Because outside of what Elon said, I'll really get into it in a second. Trump hired Acosta, who gave the sweetheart deal to Epstein. Trump replaced Matt Gaetz with Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi has a history of really not looking into the Epstein stuff. In fact, I think that's why she's there. And when you really dive into all this stuff too, it's like, okay, who was Epstein working for? They never talk about it. A lot of people on the internet think it was Israel. Why? Are they just hateful? And do they need to be squashed by the IHRA, anti-Semitism hate speech rules? Some may say that, but others would say, if you look into Ghislaine Maxwell and if you look into Epstein, they both share a certain connection. And also with, I think Ghislaine Maxwell's father was some sort of spy. But a lot of the connections and even mainstream media like Daily Mail eventually did report that, shocking claims that people were saying that he was actually working for that country. And the reason I bring that up is because if you look at, Trump when he was in office the first time, there was a guy that was in a US prison named Jonathan Pollard. He's a huge hero in Israel now. Even Floyd Mayweather was hanging out with Jonathan Pollard. But Jonathan Pollard was a United States spy who spied on us, gave our stuff to Israel, and then he was in prison for a long time. Trump, I guess, pardoned his handler, not necessarily him, because his sentence was up. And then Jonathan Pollard flew home on a jet back to Israel, where he got a hero's welcome. Whose jet did Jonathan Pollard fly home on? Jonathan Pollard flew home on an Adelson family jet. The Adelsons are a pro-Israel donor family who gives Trump hundreds of millions of dollars. And even Trump himself has said that, they're in the White House more than anybody who doesn't work there. And they're always asking for things for Israel. So when you connect all these pieces, right, you're like, okay, Trump takes hundreds of millions of dollars from pro-Israel donors. Trump pardons foreign spies, and then foreign spies fly home on his biggest donor's jet back to the country and get a hero welcome. Trump hires Epstein, people who got Epstein off the hook. Trump replaced Matt Gaetz with Pam Bondi, who was successful at not letting any of that stuff out in Florida. I made a video in a couple months ago, and I said, listen, I'm not accusing Trump of anything. I'm not one that's going to point the finger this and that, but I do believe he's working for the Epstein orbit, essentially, and I do think that the Epstein files are never going to come out. And I don't want to get too much into it. And then people will say, well, how could you vote for him, or how could you like him? It's like, yeah, obviously, I don't know. It's like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are not going to release the Epstein files. They never talk about it. I would even go as far as this. This conversation would not be had right now between Elon and Trump if Trump didn't win. So it's like, even though I do think that he's not going to look into that as much as he said, this is something that wouldn't have come out under Joe Biden. They would have been doing other stuff. The right would have been talking about that. Now we got Elon and Trump allegedly beefing and him talking about the Epstein stuff. That's massive progress, in my opinion. But anyway, I think it's pretty wild. I know, I haven't really read the room on it yet. I wanted to come live and talk about it as far as what people are thinking. But I would think that some people trust Trump no matter what, and they don't care that he said this. Some people don't trust either of them, and some people are going to be like, yeah, that's true. If you do I won't say do the research, because that doesn't make sense, but also if you guys watch my live stream, the reason it's different, I'm standing up right now. I was sitting down and it was annoying me, so I have a standing desk. I decided to stand up for this one. Whitney Webb, many other people have done reporting on Trump's connections to Epstein and, his everything that he's doing. So it would add up. In my opinion, I would say, as a journalist, I did a video on it. If you want to watch my video, why I think the Epstein files are never coming out. As a citizen, like if you asked me, do I think that Trump is compromised by Epstein to some extent? I do think so. I think, why else would you hire his the people who let him off? It's like with Bill Gates. Trump hired Doug Bergam. Doug Bergam is funded by Bill Gates. Doug Bergam was the governor of North Dakota when Bill Gates got all their farmland in this controversial case. And I think Doug Bergam was basically planted in North Dakota for that reason. I'm sure there's other reasons, but it's like, to me, Doug Bergam is a Bill Gates funded plant. Why would Trump put him in charge of all the national parks and our farmland in America? I don't know his exact role. I think it's like interior or something. But if you look into what he does, it's a lot of U.S. land. So it's like he got funded by Bill Gates in North Dakota. Then he's the governor of North Dakota. While he's the governor, Bill Gates wins this really weird lawsuit because they have rules in North Dakota to not let people buy up all the farmland. And somehow, under Doug Bergam's watch, Bill Gates gets all their farmland and wins a court case that everyone in North Dakota is mad. Like, wouldn't that person, if it were a real party of outsiders, wouldn't that person be like, okay, he gets punished, or he's not going to make it to the next level of politics? No, Trump hires all these people. When Trump passed the IHRA, anti-Semitism hate speech laws, and you look at who's in the office, when he passed the anti-Semitism executive order in 2019, Alan Dershowitz was in the room. You could look into the history of Alan Dershowitz. I know he's written a book and he's defended his name, and he has every right to do so. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying Alan Dershowitz was in the room when Trump was passing the IHRA hate speech laws. I've constantly said the IHRA, anti-Semitism hate speech laws that Trump passes for his donors, this would benefit the Epstein orbit because of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's ethnicity. It essentially gives them a pass. And let's just say they were working for a country, it provides criticism laws for that country. So this is just an example, but let's just say Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein were Chinese. And then Trump is funded by this big Chinese donor. And then Trump passes the Chinese hate speech laws that say you can't accuse Chinese people of dual loyalty. You can't say this about Chinese Americans. You can't say this about the country of China. Like, why would he do that? And the thing is, if Jonathan Pollard was in America because he was a spy for Israel that got arrested, that ended up flying home on Trump's donor's jet, but let's just say you said something about that. According to the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, you would be anti-Semitic for saying that Jonathan Pollard was spying on America, because that's supposing someone of his ethnicity of having dual loyalty to Israel. And you're not supposed to do that under the hate speech laws that Trump is passing with Alan Dershowitz in the room. Like, it's all very bizarre. And someone said Canada's burning. I don't know if you're talking about literally or like metaphorically. I could look it up if you want. Let me see. Canada wildfire. Okay, there's some bad wildfires in Canada. Okay, I didn't know if you guys were talking about metaphorically or actually, but God bless Canada. Good luck to you guys. Sorry about that. And sorry for the air quality of anyone in America and Canada that has to breathe it. With that being said, back to what I was talking about, it's like outside of, like, I'm not going to make accusations about Trump. I'm just going to talk about what it is. I oppose the hate speech laws. When I do that, they don't want me to go to Republican places. Like, the Republican Party has been essentially a limited hangout for as long as I've seen it. And as soon as I figured that out, they didn't want me around. Whatever, don't care. But what I'm saying is, I'm not mad that Elon Musk said this. Like, if Elon Musk truly believes it, I don't know what theater this is, and I don't know what's going on, but once again, this is another thing. If you guys watch my longer stream after this, I did a whole live stream about Trump and Elon, and I think you'd like it if you like this one. I just had to do this one too. It's like, I don't know what Elon's intentions are, but if I already know something and I think something and he says it, I'm going to be like, yeah. So it's like, regardless of who says what, I do like that he said it, because now it's going to roll the ball in this direction. And it's like, I already kind of thought that anyway. So now that he said it, now it's on an even bigger platform. And I would say this too, when it comes to, I'll read the super chat real quick, then I'll get back to it. Let me see. The super chat says, free man die free, $10 super chat. He said, you don't push in the chair for Netanyahu for no reason. Out of character Trump to kiss arse like that, unless somebody got something on him. MAGA getting betrayed is a net positive for libertarians. Thank you for the super chat. Back to what I was saying. If you look at what happened during Epstein, it's similar to COVID, where not everybody, let me be clear. Some people on the right, because they like Trump so much, they kind of take accountability away from him and just think of like the deep state and the left. But just like 15 days to slow the spread started under Trump. He extended it under Trump. The CARES Act under Trump. Operation Warp Speed under Trump. Yes, Democrats did bad and worse things, but that is all Trump too. It's the same as Epstein. Who was in office when Jeffrey Epstein was allegedly killed? Donald Trump. If he's such an outsider and they have Jeffrey Epstein under custody, wouldn't he put a few more agents there or a few more cameras? Like, wouldn't Trump go out of his way if he really was an outsider to be like, we got Jeffrey Epstein, we know how important this is, make sure we add some more cameras, or make sure we have our own like CIA or FBI agents watching or whatever? No, it just all happened under Trump. And, he was like Hillary Clinton a few times and then just moved on. It's like, he didn't care about Epstein going away. Isn't that a little weird? Don't you think someone would care a little bit more about that if they really actually cared? And then who did Trump put into office as Attorney General when Epstein was allegedly killed himself or whatever they said? William Barr. If you look up Barr Epstein, two things happen. The first one may be a weird coincidence. Epstein-Barr virus, which is the name of a virus. The second thing you'll probably find is the connection between Bill Barr's father and Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, Bill Barr's father was the headmaster or a top-level position at a school when Jeffrey Epstein became a teacher there. And some people are like, why was he a teacher? Like, what type of experience did he have? So the Barr family and the Epstein family have a massive connection that's already out there. And then he just so happens to be the attorney general when Trump's in office. So here's what I'm saying when it comes to deductive reasoning. If you're a logical person, right outside of your emotions, is it a coincidence that Trump puts Bill Barr as the attorney general to oversee the Epstein thing when he already has connections to Epstein and his family? Is it a coincidence that Trump didn't really seem to care that much? Is it a coincidence that at the time of the Epstein thing, Who was the Secretary of Labor? It was Acosta. What does that guy know about labor? Maybe a lot, but why would the guy who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal be in government when Epstein gets arrested in some position? Why is he getting promoted and rewarding for you know what I'm saying? For being a part of basically the Epstein sweetheart deal. He's getting promoted by Trump. Why did Matt Gaetz, who spoke badly about the anti-Semitism hate speech laws and said that they were anti-Christian, why would he get replaced by Pam Bondi, who was in Florida after the Epstein cover-up for years and didn't do anything? You know, why would Trump pass hate speech laws for one country, one race, and one religion that just so happens to intertwine with Ghislaine and Maxwell, even though Republicans constantly tell you that they don't believe in hate speech and they don't think that hate speech works? Someone said hit the gym. Dude, I'm in great shape. I'm not going to flex here for the camera or anything, but I'm in good shape and I'm strong. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm tall. I'm 6'3". I'm standing up right now and I'm in great shape. So I don't know. If you want to play me in like a sport or something one-on-one, I'll probably win, but whatever. Anyway, back to the show because that's what it's about. Yeah, once again, I don't know what's going on, but of course, I'm happy Elon said it. The Epstein files are the apparent, I don't want to say apparently, but the cornerstone, I think, of what's going on in this country. I believe the Epstein files and the Epstein situation, like people are like, why do you care about it so much? Well, I think it's a huge key to why our politicians might be being blackmailed and what they're blackmailed for. I think it's a huge piece possibly of why we've had no leverage in certain wars where we're fighting against our own interests, spending trillions of dollars and sacrificing our people when it doesn't make sense. Like maybe it has nothing to do with it. Then just show us all the files and show us who he was working for. Because yes, he was doing weird stuff, but why? Like they want you to just think Jeffrey Epstein was a bad individual and a lone wolf with Ghislaine Maxwell, and that's it. Well, he had to be working with someone, right? They don't want to tell you who he's working for because if it was just a few celebrities that they could sacrifice, they wouldn't care. They'd be like, okay, Epstein's bad. Ghislaine Maxwell's bad. These three, celebrities did something illegal and we're going to frame it all on them so the other 50 get away. If it were that simple, they would probably do that. But it's not that simple because he was probably blackmailing American politicians for another country. And the reason they can't tell you is because they're still working for that country, most likely. The reason Trump's not going to tell you because he's in the bag too. The left will tell you it's the right will tell you it's the left. But the truth is, it's like they're all kind of in on it. And when I mean in on it, there's a lot of different categories, but one of them is a certain topic that doesn't make sense. And as soon as you figure out it doesn't make sense, the political establishment turns against you. Like in 2019, I'm going to bring it up because it's relevant. I figured out that Trump was passing hate speech laws. I don't believe in hate speech laws as an American, not for Saudi Arabia, not for Canada. Why would I want America to pass hate speech laws for Saudi Arabia? That would mean we're controlled by Saudi Arabia and they're making our politicians pass laws so we can't question them. So it's the same, that my same talking points or my same thought process when it comes to Israel or Jewish stuff. It's like, I have no issue with anybody, but why would Trump be sitting at a desk with Alan Dershowitz and Jared Kushner looking over his shoulder and Robert Kraft and passing laws that say you can't question Israel, you can't question dual loyalty, but of any American citizen, even though there have been spies that have stolen our secrets and they're in prison. Like why? And then the spies flying home on Trump's donor's jet. Like to me, it's pretty obvious what's going on. So I was like, you know what? I thought it would go over pretty simply. I didn't realize it was going to be like a career ender for me. It's not a career ender, but it was basically a dead end in that industry. I had to make it on my own, but I was like, oh no, everybody's going to agree with me. It's like, hey, we like that country, but we're against hate speech laws. Then everyone's like, no, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic, and I'm like, no, I just don't agree with those laws. And then like, no, that's hateful. It doesn't make any logical sense. I'm not suggesting that's why Donald Trump did it, but the nicest thing I could say is Donald Trump gets hundreds of millions, almost $500 million from one family who he's admitted on television or on an interview. He said that they always want things for Israel. When I say that in a debate, they say it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy. It's like Trump said it on stage himself. He said they give me money and they want things for that country. But if I say they want things for that country, I just crossed the hate speech law that Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and the whole GOP passed. So why would a party that doesn't believe in hate speech laws be passing hate speech laws? There has to be a reason. The nicest thing I could say is they're all being paid off, but people say it's hate speech when I say that. That's the nice thing. That's the truth. It's obvious they're being paid off. Is it something else? Is there something else? Is there another reason people are doing all this stuff? Because it doesn't make any sort of sense. And I'm not saying Epstein has anything to do with the budget. I think politicians are corrupt enough, but it's like if a party's small government, why are they making government big? If if a party wants to, if Trump's getting mad before he gets into office and saying that he's embarrassed to be a Republican because they're raising the debt ceiling, why does he want to raise the debt ceiling now? Like, I'm not saying it's because of Epstein, because it's probably not, but it's like, who are these people working for? Are they working for us? Or are they working for their donors? If they're working for their donors, who are the donors? Are they working for the banks? Are they working for the debt collectors? Are they working for the military industrial complex? Like, something's not adding up when there's multiple right wingers that have made a career saying no safe spaces. You should be allowed to say whatever you want on a college campus, and free speech is hate speech or whatever. And then when it comes to their race and their religion, now all of a sudden they've completely flipped 180, and now they're the enforcers of the hate speech laws, saying that's a bit. It's like something's not adding up. And the more you realize it's not adding up, the more you realize that Trump's not really doing anything about it. In fact, on this topic, Trump seems to be on the wrong side of history. So all that being said, and to keep it under 25 minutes, I think it's very interesting that Elon said it. I can't wait to see what Trump says. And if this is theater, this is the greatest political theater of our lifetime. If it's not, or if it's the political theater crumbling under people who aren't compromised as others, I am open-minded. I don't have like a definite opinion of like, oh, this is theater, this is not. But what I will say is every single person in politics is not going to be compromised. Every single person in politics is not going to be as establishment. And there is a chance that, sometimes people could just be like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to say it. Like it's been time for that to happen, because how long can they keep this illusion going? At a certain point, someone's going to have to be like, all right, it's all nonsense. And, maybe Elon's not that character. Maybe it's all a show, but I like to think, and without like hoping or like begging or idol worshiping, I like to think that regardless of whether Elon says what he said or not, this is opening the conversation on such a massive level, a conversation that needs to be had, whether Elon says it or not. Why? Because the Epstein files, like the video I made 4 months ago, if you watch it, they're not coming out if people don't talk about it, because you have Pam Bondi, who helped essentially not release any more information in Florida. Trump surrounding himself by people who are in on the first cover up to some extent. Like, why would they come out when our party's in on it? And nobody wants to believe our party's in on it. It's like, Trump is so different. Hopefully, maybe, but when you got, like, if Trump, I'm just going to say it's probably not likely that someone that's not in on the Epstein thing at all would hire the guy who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal. Like, why would you even want to do that? Even if you knew the guy, it's like, wouldn't you be smart enough to be like, you know what? I can't hire you because you gave Epstein a sweetheart deal, and that's going to look bad on me. But Trump gives Acosta a job in his first administration, gives Bill Barr a job in his first administration, and then is overseeing the, I don't know what happened to Epstein, I guess he just killed himself thing. Like, are we supposed to believe that's all this wild coincidence? Donald Trump is a genius who's the greatest Republican leader of our lifetime. He just so happens to hire all these people around Epstein's and mistakenly sell the vaccine and mistakenly do this. It's just this one big coincidence. I mean, it's been 6 years since I believed that. I think I bought into it a little bit from 2017 to 2019 to some extent, but I snapped out of it in 2019 and really figured it out with the information that I was getting. And a lot of people have not wanted to think that way. And, it's like, regardless of how bad the Democrats are and how bad you want to close the border, it makes total sense. For self-preservation, it makes sense to vote for Republicans if you believe that that's the best way. But you can vote and realize that you like a party better, but still do reporting and call your people out. So at a certain point, like, something has to change. And I don't know. You could think what you want, and I really have no strong opinion about it, so I'm not going to be annoyed in any way. But I would like to think that whether Elon is part of this show right now or not, that this is going to be a massive W, just the fact that everybody's talking about this. And I'd like to think that part of me wants to believe that he's actually just like, all right, I'm annoyed, I'm going to drop a bomb that nobody else will drop. But even if he didn't, even if it's something that I don't understand, I just don't see how right now, as long as everybody has a level head about it, I don't see how this isn't a massive, massive W for the Trump movement to make everybody think a little bit deeper. I mean, be on the lookout for I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything, but it's like be on the lookout for distractions or some massive tragedy to cover it up. And I'm not, once again, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but anytime we don't believe what they want us to believe, I'm always like, when is an event going to happen to then pass more speech laws? Or when is an event going to happen that they're going to use as leverage to try to get us into another war? Because it always happens like that. So, I'm just curious, like, to where this leads. I pray that it leads to nothing crazy like that, but we're funding two wars right now in two different countries. So unfortunately, tragedies, especially in those countries, are happening all the time. And they happen in America every day in inner city areas, and they never report it because they just don't care, I guess, when tens of thousands of people die or millions of people die of fentanyl in our country. But in general, I would just say be on the lookout for tricks and stuff, because this seems like a massive, massive, massive moment one way or another. And I can't really see why this would not be a good thing. I mean, if you like Trump and you think Elon's lying, yeah, of course, it's a terrible thing. But if you have been underwhelmed by what Trump's been doing with the Epstein stuff, and you have your suspicions as to why Pam Bondi's not releasing it, I don't see how this doesn't put massive social pressure on them to do a little more, because at the end of the day, like, the Dan Bongino, like, dude, it's like, the video's not that good, but the deep state files, it's like, nobody's buying that, literally nobody. So this is interesting to me. I'm sure it's interesting to you. Appreciate you guys for being here. God bless you. God bless your family. I'm out. I didn't even mean to be live again, but I did. I felt like I couldn't leave this out. If you want to see more of my opinion of the Trump and Elon beef, going through the psychology of it, and just having some other real conversations that I don't always have when I talk about the news, check out my longer live stream, because I went live for 2 hours before this, but I had to do another one since this was the biggest bombshell of the day. Let me know what you think, if you would agree or disagree with me. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back soon. And I got to stop live streaming and get a life and do something, because I haven't eaten all day. Appreciate y'all. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the